Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to First Cut. I'm Andres. This is RB3. We're here to break down the new Guillermo Del Toro film, Frankenstein. RB3, I'm excited to get into this one because we got to see this one in theaters. RB3, right off the bat, overall thoughts on 2025's Frankenstein.
It was a great film. Guillermo Del Toro does a great job always just making great cinema, elevated genre cinema. In a way, he's kind of like the Joe Wright of genre films in terms of like always having movies with immaculate production design, costume design, kind of living in this like Shakespearean type of, Pride and Prejudice slash, Jane Austen kind of like very flowery Victorian level dialogue, which is, sometimes can come off cheesy, but in this movie actually flowed really well with the ideas and the messaging that I was trying to get across. It's a great film. And it's not necessarily perfect, I don't think, but I had a great time watching it.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by it. I think it really got me. I think I was expecting something a little bit more cruel, about cruelty. And obviously there is a lot of cruelty in the film. But I was expecting something a little bit more cruel in the sense of overall ending narrative-wise. But in reality, what I got was something a lot more uplifting, a lot more sincere, genuine, heartfelt, almost like old school, like feel good by the end of it when it comes to the overall themes in the film, as far as tackling the darker sides of humanity and trying to kind of piece it all together to see what is being a human. And those kind of themes kind of hit me kind of hard because I felt like it's something that I didn't expect. It's like subverting what the subversive version could have been. Which would have been something like, a really depressing ending and this whole, who's the real monster kind of thing. But it's surprisingly uplifting, which I kind of really enjoyed. And then, yeah, like you said, the Victorian, extreme, flowery language, old school kind of storytelling, like let me tell you a tale kind of style, is not for everyone. I agree with that. But at the same time, I feel like it worked for me, and it worked especially with the performances that we got in the film.
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, the subversion of expectations, I think that's what really kind of makes or breaks this film for a lot of people. I would almost argue, subversion almost to the point of, almost being almost unrecognizable from its source material, right? Because, of course, we've seen Frankenstein a bajillion times. The story of Victor Frankenstein, this creator, making a life or creating life for the purpose of selfishness, but that selfishness unfolding and unraveling in a way that creates this like crowd mob mentality of like this town and uplifting. And they, like the story is a normally tragic story, and we've seen it literally hundreds of times through the arc of cinema. So, going into this movie, I was like, how can Guillermo Del Toro make this story that we've seen a bajillion times different? And he really made it different. I mean, almost to the point of, this movie, I was actually talking to Kate about this the other day. This film is like more of like in the modern context, is more of like a sci-fi movie than it is like a Frankenstein movie. Like it's almost more Blade Runner than it is like a traditional Frankenstein movie because of how much of a meditation this is on, like you mentioned, the creation of life, the idea of life, the meditation of like, what is a soul if it's artificial? And ironically, Guillermo Del Toro has been heavy on this anti-generative AI conversation lately. And I feel like Frankenstein is honestly a conversation about that too, a little bit. Like, what is intelligence? What is artificial intelligence? Because the reason why, that this version is so subversive, and it does go to the extreme lengths of, like I said, almost feeling more of like a sci-fi robot kind of story than like a traditional Frankenstein story, is because they're making this version of Frankenstein highly intelligent. Most of the time we see Frankenstein, he's dumb. He's not like, super smart. He's very rudimentary. This version played by Jacob Elordi from Euphoria, and we've seen him in a lot of things. Is Elvis Presley in the Kaylee Spaley Priscilla. And yeah, he plays a much more emotional, much more intelligent, much more in-depth kind of portrayal of Frankenstein. So that's kind of the biggest difference, and it's a good difference. It's a great difference. But I think I see a lot of people on Twitter saying like, "Oh, Guillermo del Toro completely missed the point of the original. Guillermo del Toro doesn't understand Frankenstein," and it's like, nah, I think he gets it, but he's just not engaging with the same old themes and drama that we've seen in the Frankenstein iconography for hundreds of years.
Yeah, no, 100%. He gets it. He just wants to give his own version, which is exactly what you do in adaptations, right? You still have to make your own version. At least I feel like most people want to have your work adapted. You want to give it your own spin, especially with something as classic as Frankenstein. And he did want to give a little bit more of an uplifting, hopeful note to the whole story instead of the, like you said, tragic, sad tale that we usually get and the almost cautionary tale that we get from the original novel. He wanted to give a little bit of a different take. And I like your idea of sci-fi because I think Mary Shelley is considered to be the pioneers of sci-fi.
Sci-fi, yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that this is one of the first sci-fi stories that of all time probably really shows that these themes in science fiction are classic. They're timeless. Like, what is it to be a human? What is it? What is intelligence? Where's the soul? That kind of stuff is really, really interesting. And how does technology perverse us, but how can it help us? And what is it to be used as a tool? Like, is it a tool? Is it just purely perverted? Or, can there be progress with science, right? All those themes are in this film. And I think that it's bold to try and juggle all of them, but I really like that he did want to juggle all of them. Now, what are some things that you are hearing that aren't really hitting with audiences and something that maybe didn't hit with you as much?
Well, audiences, I don't care about audiences. I mean, I think most people online are stupid, so, whatever. But for me personally, it was a little long. And I hate to say that. I'm always an advocate for long movies. Me and Kay's film is a very long movie. But this film, I will say, like, towards the middle, I did start to feel it a little bit. Just in the middle, the beginning, it opens up hot with this, great like chase on the ship, and that was like such a cool sequence to start off with. And then we have a lot of other great introductory lore into Victor Frankenstein's life as a child, and like the beginning starts off really hot, and then the ending, as we start to understand what the story is more, and as we start to get into the more intelligent Frankenstein side of it, it also kicks into another high gear too. But yeah, there's a piece in the middle there that I was like, okay, I'm feeling the length a little bit.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it, by the way, because I could feel it too, but I could feel it not in a way that I was kind of bothered by it, but I could feel it in the way that I think we're getting conditioned, right? We're getting conditioned to watching films that are a lot quicker, a lot like just really snappy. Even with the editing and the directing, it feels very snappy and just quick. And this one felt very drawn out. That's the word I would probably use. It's like every step a person takes, if he's walking down an alley and he's walking to a house, you're going to walk to that damn house. Right. We're not going to cut to him just being at the house. Because Guillermo Del Toro wants to show off his production design.
Exactly. And the costumes.
Yeah. He wants to show off like, yo, this is what Netflix money gets you, bro. I will make sure and take my time to walk. And stuff like that is stuff that we don't really see in movies anymore because we are so, get to the story. And the atmosphere, the environment, the vibes are just not there anymore. And Guillermo del Toro wanted to take his time with it. But there are moments where you're just like, all right, I get it. This is dope. This is a big ass set. So there are moments there where I definitely felt that. But it doesn't necessarily bother me because to me it felt like I was watching something so genuine and something so heartfelt and so passionate from a creator and from an artist that did feel like it was his vision being on the big screen, that I almost kind of appreciated the drawn outness of it all and the slower pace that this film kind of has. It has kind of a slower pace.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm never mad at a slow pace. I love a good costume drama. I love a good kind of Victorian style movie. I will be real. That is, one of the harder genres for me to kind of like get wrapped into, like as a, male, straight male, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just kind of hard to like really, dig my teeth in the same way, that I feel like a lot of other people can. That being said though, it was great. All the performances were great, and that's really what kept it engaging too. Oscar Isaac was phenomenal as Victor Frankenstein. I mean, honestly, probably one of his best performances he's ever had, especially towards the end of the film. Mia Goth, her character, it didn't really feel like the most necessary per se. Of course, it all leads to an arc that, I don't want to like spoil. But yeah, that whole subplot with Mia Goth and the brother and their marriage kind of situation, that was like the costume drama stuff that I'm like, I have a hard time like really sinking my teeth into. But that being said though, it's all great. It all added up to something. It all mattered. But to me, yeah, the best parts of the film were the actual Frankenstein parts of it. That's what really shined to me.
Yeah, what do you think about Jacob Elordi as the creature?
He's great. He was really good. It's very challenging for actors to have parts where they're not saying a lot of lines, especially initially. He still did a pretty good job of like creating a sympathetic character, even just through the silence, even just through motion and movement, which was very impressive. And then when he did start talking a little bit and you see his speech develop a little bit, it's almost, this movie also kind of reminded me of his like Poor Things a little bit too, like from last year with Emma Stone, because it's like, they start off like dumb, but then like they get really, really smart, and it's like, oh dang, like this is, I like seeing that kind of progression like happen on screen, and that's kind of what he was going through, and yeah, I like seeing that journey as well. So yeah, it was a good performance. I mean, there are sometimes he's just like kind of walking, and it very much looks like Jacob Elordi in a bunch of makeup, but then like other times it feels very sympathetic, and I like that the movement felt distinct, and even when he was ready for action. So,
yeah, no, I really enjoyed his performance, and I felt like the emotion that he was trying to convey was definitely there. And that's the most important part of that character, right? Is displaying the emotion, but also discovering the emotion, catching it, right? All at the same time, where it's like suddenly you're happy and you're excited, and then suddenly you're really angry, like a baby, right? I mean, you can literally see that he took a lot of cues from like what a young child acts like, where they're exploring the world and something can delight them and make them really giddy and happy, and then at 2 seconds later they're crying or extremely angry because something else happened. So that kind of discovery of what it is to be alive was really interesting from him. And like you said, his development as far as learning how the world works, learning how language works, and learning everything else to be a man, I thought was very fascinating as well. And I would say it's the performance of the film. I know a lot of people like yourself might say maybe it's Victor Frankenstein and it's Oscar Isaac, but I think his performance is the standout performance in the film, and it's the one that is probably going to get the most amount of attention because of, like you said, like the rudimentary, like learning to be, a person and almost like a baby inside a human's, a grown man's body kind of style of acting, like really, really old school acting, developing into, an intelligent person and a sympathetic human being.
Yeah. Again, they gave Emma Stone that Oscar for Poor Things last year. I could see that kind of situation happening again for this. I mean, I did want to ask you about the film's awards potential, because I feel like it came out really hot during the film festival circuit, and now that it's out for general critics and general public, it's getting really good reception, but it's not getting the greatest reception. Do you think it's still a pretty big shot at like Best Picture and all those categories, or?
Yeah, I don't know why the film isn't really hitting as much with Hollywood critics and stuff. Most critics I know and I follow didn't like the movie, and it's kind of fascinating to see, because it does make me start to question the awards potential of it, because we know that at one hand Guillermo Del Toro, like the Academy really likes him. And then on the other hand, there's sometimes when it feels like they just don't like mess with him at all. So it is kind of this push and pull as far as like which side of the Academy are we going to get? And I think part of me feels like when it comes to the bigger awards, I think it's going to miss because I don't think maybe they appreciated his adaptation of it and kind of the less tragic version of a Frankenstein. So that's kind of what I have fear on there. But when it comes to costume design, production design, all that kind of stuff, I think it'll obviously, it should be there. Like it should be highly, highly into consideration for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. Technical awards, visual effects, makeup, costume, production design. And then those are categories that Guillermo Del Toro usually eats in. He also, he did have that movie that came out a couple years ago that was not even one of his better films, but it did end up getting a Best Picture nomination. Do you remember which one I'm talking about? It had like Bradley Cooper and Kate Blanchett.
Oh, Nightmare Alley, bro. I love Nightmare
Alley. Yeah, no, I like Nightmare Alley too. But it's not one of his like greater films. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I loved it. It's one of my favorites, but yeah, it wasn't one of his most popular ones for sure. Yeah.
I don't even know if this is necessarily needs to be a award contender. I feel like it's just going to find a cult following in and of itself. So, I kind of look forward to seeing that too.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be a little bit more audience appreciated and less critically appreciated, if that makes sense. Which is usually, I don't want to say it's not the case for Guillermo del Toro, but I feel like it's not always the case when it comes to his kind of films, because his films always have like a strange or like a weird offbeat kind of nature to them. And this one does have that too, but it's also, I would say, one of his most like crowd pleasing films, which is something that we don't always see in a Guillermo del Toro film. But something I want to get to before we finish up RB3, because I know this is a general review, is thematically. How do those themes and how do all these crazy amount of themes all stacked into what film work for you? Did that work for you? Or did you feel like it might have been a little bit too much as far as what he was juggling thematically?
No, I mean, this all worked. It all flowed. Like I said, I think it just, for me, as I'm watching it, I really did contextualize it in my mind as like a more modern sci-fi take. Like it really felt very Blade Runner 2049 in a way. I say that complimentary. If you know me, like I don't really love Blade Runner 2049 like as a movie. But in this case, I think like the idea of this new age version of meditation of life, the meditation of morality, and an artificially created creature or being. What does that work? How does that work? I think this did it really, really well. And I think, yeah, it's a great original take on a story we've seen a bajillion times.
Yeah, it's funny, right? There's so many sci-fi stories you could mention this, but it does have a little bit of that inspiration as far as classic sci-fi, which obviously we mentioned before that Mary Shelley is considered to be one of the pioneers of sci-fi or creators of sci-fi. So I think it worked really well for me as well. And the fact that it ends in a much more, I keep going back to it, man, but it ends in a much more hopeful note versus something like, I don't know, Prometheus or Covenant, where David, decides to kill all humans because all humans are evil. And you know what I'm saying? Like the idea of like, turns out your creator and your master is evil and he's the monster. But instead of, I have to kill all humans kind of attitude that we might see in a classic horror sci-fi story, we kind of get a subversiveness of that, like subverting that expectation of that classic, who's the real monster? I'm not the real monster, even though I'm ugly, but I got to kill the real monster. Like we don't really see that in the film, which I thought was really kind of bold in a way, because I expected it. I expected it from Guillermo del Toro. I was like, oh, we're going to get some crazy effed up stuff. And we got a little bit of it, but not quite to the extent thematically that I thought we would when it came to the message that he was trying to communicate. I heard a couple interviews. I listened to a couple of interviews of his. He almost kind of says that it's supposed to be all different sides of humanity, where Elizabeth is one side, Frankenstein is one side, and the creature is another side, where all of it is being part of being human. But obviously, some of it is stuff we should focus on a little bit more. So less about our ego, less about our pride, less about our, our genius, and more about our heart and more about our intention and sometimes our own naivety. That can be precious, and that can be more human than, intelligence or pride or anything like that. So the fact that he didn't make Frankenstein, Victor, this like purely unredeemable evil character, even though some people might interpret it that way, I thought was pretty bold to not completely make him the most evil man in the world that has to die.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's Guillermo Del Toro's whole thing.
Yeah.
You watch Shape of Water, it's like bringing a new perspective to the, fishy Aquaman looking dude. You watching Hellboy, it's like giving you a human perspective on, literal demon devil looking dude. You know what I'm saying? And Frankenstein's doing the same thing. Definitely his earlier films like Pan's Labyrinth and stuff like that definitely had a more like cynical note to it, or more, kind of colder outlook on life for sure. But yeah, I think his more recent films like Shape of Water, like Frankenstein, even like Pinocchio, like this also felt very like in the same vein of like Pinocchio a little bit, in terms of like a period film that's about the awakening of humanity in a very bleak time. Actually, honestly, in a way, Pinocchio honestly might have been a little bit darker as a film than Frankenstein was, just in some of the endings and the thematics that they were going at in that movie. But that being said, though, all of these movies do have a very optimistic, beautiful outlook on what the meaning of life could be, either artificial or human.
Yeah, no, and I kind of think we need that right now, man. I don't know. Something tells me that we kind of need a little bit more optimism in our movies, and I know a lot of people talked about that with 2025 when it comes to Superman, but I think it might even be handled just as well in this movie, or if not better, because I do think we need a little bit more of an optimistic note to a couple of our favorite films, or films that really hit with us, especially in this time where obviously we live in a very cold, dark, pessimistic world where maybe the good guys aren't winning, but it feels like maybe trying to explore a little bit of what humanity can look like, and even if the darker sides are still there, not completely give up on it, I guess, is something that worked for me, man. It worked. It hit. I really enjoyed that. I really did.
Yeah, nah, I dug it too. This is a really, really great film. I don't know if it's maybe it makes the top 10 list of the year. I don't know, but it still really was a good film, and definitely worth watching in theaters if you have an opportunity to watch it before it comes on Netflix. Definitely a big screen movie.
Yeah, I feel if I have a final note as well, if you can, obviously a lot of people can't, and believe me, it was a struggle for me. I had to find a theater, I had to drive out, so I get it. Not everyone can, but if you can, go watch it in theaters. I really do highly recommend it, especially because I don't think you'll appreciate it as much if you watch it at home, and that's just my opinion. But obviously, not everybody can get to it. Any final thoughts, RB3?
Nah, I just can't wait to see this recommended in the Bridgerton section of Netflix, and the costume drama reigns supreme in sci-fi. Let's do it.
Yeah, I know a lot of those house moms are going to be confused as hell.
Yeah, nah,
they're going to be like, "What is this?"
Hey, they might like it though. They might
like it. You're right.
I forgot to say, I forgot who the old dude was towards the end of the film, who Frankenstein was hanging out with.
Oh yeah, I recognize the actor. I've seen him everywhere, but I just don't know his name.
Yeah, nah, he's been in so many things. Good dude though, good performance, and yeah, overall good dude.
Yeah, shout out to Christoph Waltz too. I didn't even know he was in this movie, but
oh yeah, well, he was probably the one performance that.
Oh no way, really?
I was like, yeah, this ain't working, because he kept slipping between accents, like he's trying to be British, he's trying to be France, he's trying to be.
I thought that was on
German.
purpose.
Yeah, was it? I don't know.
I thought that was on purpose. I swear it was on purpose.
Maybe it was. I thought he was just.
Yeah,
slipping.
because I don't know, man. I think that was like. I might be wrong. I haven't read too much, so maybe there's like an article out there explaining what he was thinking. But I thought the whole movie kind of did that, right? Because at the first, the guy's speaking like Russian or German, and then he's speaking perfect like British English, and I was like, is this supposed to be like a play on languages? I don't know. And then someone has like an accent, and someone doesn't, and then Frankenstein as a little kid is speaking like French, and I don't know, man. I don't know.
Right,
I might be wrong.
Right. Yeah, I didn't. I don't know if everybody's accent was bad because I'm not good at picking up on accents. But that was the one I was like, okay, for sure, his accent, that was weird. Like that was a weird accent right there. You know?
Yeah, I'm curious to see a little bit more on that. But shout out Christoph Waltz. He plays a weird dude in this movie. But that's kind of what he does. That's what he's known for. So everyone else did a really amazing job as well. And I appreciate the artistry, intention, craft, filmmaking, taking your time with each shot, the slow dolly pull-ins, the slow dolly pull-outs. Like that kind of shit just hit me, man. I appreciate that. It's been a minute since I've seen a little bit of a film taking its time with each frame, and I'm thankful to Guillermo for doing that. So, filmmaking is back, baby. Shout out to Frankenstein.
Let's go.
You can find more of me at Squad Leader Ace, and make sure you follow First Cut if you haven't done so already. RB3, where can everyone find you?
You follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Director RB3, and follow First Cut at First Cut TMO on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to the channel. Become a channel member. A lot of good stuff on there for members if you want to be a member. So help us out.
There you go, guys. Either way, for the First Cut crew, we're gonna be peacing out. So peace, dudes.
Only one can remain. It's either me or you. Only one can remain. It's either me or you. Take you out the equation. It's either